Get Pop Johnson.
Good morning, everyone. This is Biz Chicks TV. This is the place where you can find tips and tools to help you do business better. We're here to help you run a profitable business that's fun to run and to take the hassle out of your hustle. And today is Wednesday. And you know, on Wednesday, woo, we get to talk to Coach Karen. Evidently, somebody wanted to talk to her before we did. So she's taking a call right now, but we're going to get started shortly because today we're going to be talking about the emotions of money. We've been talking about how money can create anger, it could create disappointment, it can create joy. I don't know what emotion we're going to be talking about today, but I want you to sit back, relax, get yourself together. We're going to hydrate, my favorite beverage, water. And we're going to get the conversation started. Last week, I believe we talked about anger and how the emotion of anger can occur, or depression even, when you are not feeling good about your money. Now, you know, we believe that you can't keep your wealth if you don't keep your health. Emotions of money can have a real impact on your mental health. They can cause things like depression. They can make you not want to look at your numbers. You know something? Now, I'm just going to give a little testimony right here about the emotions of money. And I'm bringing Coach Karen in right now. Hi, Coach. How you doing? I was talking about some of the emotions I felt around my money when I was going through some changes, and one of them was depression. That I couldn't even look at the numbers because it just put me into a head space that was just not good at all. Yes. So what are we talking about this morning? Which emotion are we talking about with our?
We're talking about the emotion of willingness, believe it or not. We're talking about the emotion of willingness. And hi, everybody. I have to step away for a moment. All the month of January and in February, we were talking about the emotions about money, behind the money, and we covered anger, we covered sadness, happiness, guilt, happiness, health, and today we're talking about willingness because we have to be willing to examine that emotion, whatever is coming up, so that we can get to the core root of it. And money is such a funny thing. These parts of money is being ignored for too long, and I feel we have to talk about it. You know, Terry was just giving her testimonial of what had happened with her emotion behind the money. And sometimes we can't name it when it's happening, but if we were to look back, we can see what had happened, and we can see the pattern of us and see how we can change that. And that's personally first, because once you get your personal identity back and you understand you, then you're able to really take it over into the business arena or into even your job life arena and understand what gets you depressed, whether you get a pay raise or a pay drop. That's a real emotion um, that happens, and you have to be willing. So that's where willingness come into play. You have to be willing to say, hey, this is what's happening right now, and what am I going to do? How am I going to power through? And if I can't, how do I get help in powering through to get to this other place? Because sometimes we really need help, and you can get help from anywhere. A mentor, a coach, your pastor, your fellow sister in church, or a friend of yours. And sometimes, if you're willing, you can get help from a child. And I was smiling when the thought process came about.
So let me see if I understand the topic. The topic today is, where are we willing to get help from regarding our feelings about our money?
The emotions, yeah, yeah, and the two parts, and the willingness to change, because not only getting the help, but the willingness to change. You have to be willing, which means you have to be participate in it. You gotta participate because you can't just leave it. You can't leave it by chance. You have to take action, and so you have to be willing to take the action. We hear a lot of times people say, "Well, why the person just don't do it?" Or how come they can't just take action?
Mm-hmm.
They are not willing, even if they don't understand, they're not willing to do, because when you are willing, you have to be willing to fail.
Ah,
And
ah,
that part holds so many people back. The other part is it's such a two, two-sided sword. You have to be willing to succeed too, because we see so much failure, but sometimes people are paralyzed by the thought of being successful
mhm.
and what
Wow.
that entails. That's not talked about as much as the willingness to fail. People are genuinely willing to succeed because of maybe what was said around them and what they heard and what they've passed through, lived through previously. I've been successful early on in business, and then I had a bit of failures. And I could say not directly my fault, but because I wasn't at the time understanding how I need to fuel my finances. So I become in the pool of the struggle. And
Mhm.
once I got past that, years later, just by passing, somebody had said to me, not passing, but I know they were angry with me, and they said to me, when you're successful, people like me won't be in your life anymore. And at the time, I so desperately wanted that person to stay in my life that I never realized that I start sabotaging
Oh my
my
goodness. Oh my
successes
goodness.
like crazy. And would you believe it, Terry? It didn't happen in a week. It was a couple of years in when I realized where I was at, where my bank account was just bleeding, where I wasn't
Completed, huh?
doing. And I didn't recognize that is that person I made so important that I start disappearing. I
Wow.
started being not willing to participate as I was anymore. And
That is amazing. I have a comment over here by Mark, and I understand exactly what you just said, Coach. We're going to come back to that. She says you cannot get beyond what you refuse to acknowledge. You
agree.
must force yourself to move through the discomfort to look at the numbers. And and Janice says, "Wow, yeah."
Yes. Yes.
We have Elizabeth Green in the studio. I don't know if she's camera ready and wants to join the conversation. If so, just let us know. You can give us a thumbs up over here. Okay, so we're going to bring her in. Uh, Coach, you said some profound things, really about disappearing. I think a lot of us have, especially women, have disappeared from our own lives until something dramatic happens that snaps us out of it and says, "What happened to me?" You look
Exactly.
in the mirror, you don't even know who is this person. This is not
Mhm.
the person.
Yeah. You go in and you make the person or the people or whomever so important to you that you can't even imagine that you did it to yourself. Like you can't imagine you've done it to yourself, and you realize that that was just a play on keeping you comfortable where they feel
Mhm.
comfortable with you,
Uh-huh.
and you yourself start feeling comfortable with yourself. And you
Gotcha.
don't realize it. You're just in this comfortable place. But then things
Wow.
start falling apart and start happening to you. And whether you need finances or you need them, you start seeing, A, they can't show up because they were never, ever in a place to help you anyway. So they're trying to pull you there.
Wow. Wow.
Two,
I like what Mark is saying over in the comments that yeah, the fear of success is prevalent. You know, it's like we want to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
We're afraid of failure, but then we forget that there's balance, because what things do we need to be successful? So I think that that is a question that floats on everybody's mind.
It's somewhere operating in the background. This is what I love about discussions with Coach Karen. She always gets to the back of my mind. And, let's read Mark's comment. It says, "Fear of success is prevalent and most often under the radar.
Mhm.
What if that thing that I always wanted isn't what I thought I would be? Isn't
Mhm.
what I thought it would be? Rather than finding out, let me keep it at a distance also you have to feel deserving.
Mhm. Mhm. And you know, there's the other thing. Sometimes people don't realize it's not like you don't want friendships or you don't want people around you, but there's times when you got a lot of close people around you. That willingness to just get up and say, "Hey, I'm going to do this," without telling them, but they can see that you're doing something new, and you lose those buddies or those people who kept you warm as a blanket, and
Mm.
you are now willing to let them go. I had this book club that I formed, and the first book club meeting, I said to the ladies, it was 7 of us, I said, let us read Rich Dad Poor Dad. And one of the ladies got up and she says, I don't have a blank blank cent in my pocket, and I'm going to read about rich and poor. Are you kidding me? This is the kind of place you brought me to. Now I explained to her what we're doing, but because she was among other people, she went berserk on in around the table, right? I know life was hard, but I didn't think to that extent. And followed by 3 others who was just upset that we were going to talk about money, even though
Mhm.
you guys know me by now. There's prerequisite. This is me talking about where it's leading to. And the reason I assembled this group of women is because I know where their financial life stood. And in my head, it was like, let's have, I wasn't even in the coaching world yet. So it was just about peer on peer and getting people businesses off the ground. When eventually individually I get to understand, it's that they thought I was going to ev- help each and every one of them out
Mhm.
of my pocket versus we
Oh my
come
goodness.
together as a collective.
Okay, let me put these comments up because I am too through with that one. Okay.
Well, I think a lot of people are so accustomed to having it given to them. Okay.
Mm.
Because then if it doesn't work out, it's very easy to blame the other person opposed to taking the responsibility on yourself and saying, okay, and recognizing it's okay to fail. That is, you've got to set a course in order to course correct. And so, we um, unconsciously keep ourselves stuck in this comfortable zone.
That is exactly what you said.
You
To unconsciously stop ourselves.
We do. We do.
Isn't that what you just said, Liz?
We unconsciously do it, but it's always, this is the part where it's not totally self, because it's always something has been spoken and said, and we don't know when it's going to tap into a specific emotion that raises this thing in us, and we don't want to do it. We unconsciously we are prepared in a sense, but there's a part of us don't be prepared. Give you an example. So we want to plan out the whole year, and we plan the quarter, we plan the month, we plan the week, we even plan the day. But within that planning session, the minute little things that we're supposed to do, and I'm going to speak for myself. When I start recognizing something, I'll say, well, it's just 3 little things. So what's the point of putting it down? But those 3 tiny little things, when I do mention them to myself, I get them done. When I don't, and somebody come to me, whether it's my home or a phone call, I dismiss them as nothing much, and I go forth the other direction. That's the beginning of me sabotaging myself, of not
Mm.
succeeding where I said I was going to go. It didn't matter if I was going to design in Canva, write content, or do a video. It really didn't matter what those 3 things were. If I don't give myself the grace to say I'm important enough to do that, then there's a bunch of things that follow right after. And the sabotaging had begun when I said yes to the person and no to myself, and it just broadens itself until I am there. And we're talking money. So it means that I might have a client, and I like to really refer me. I refer clients, but I like to refer me and just the silly things I do, so people can know that this is not me just talking about clients, but this will happen to self too, where I have a client and I know this specifically was my cleaning business. $900 worth. Could you believe it? I'm sitting here telling this story. $900 worth of business. And I stopped it to go look after something. And everything showcased that the person at the time needed me. When I got there, it was a lie. But it wasn't her fault. I allow myself to get sucked into the importanceness. I felt important that she needed me. I didn't think it at the time, right? So I went to rescue. That somebody didn't need rescuing. Let me just clarify right now. And so the 900 went out the door, because I needed to be present, not because I need to do the clean, but I needed to be present to seal the deal, to close the sale, and then send the workers. I didn't do that.
Wow.
Writing it down helps to keep yourself accountable. When you write it down, and then when the client calls, or the friend calls, or the family calls, you can go back to your pad and say, wait a minute, I've got this, and this to do. Let me see when I can work in. But so often we find ourselves being the hero. We're going, I am going to take care of everything. And so because we haven't written it down, we don't have it to go back and check off and say, okay, I've done this. Okay, I can do this.
Wow.
But when you have it in the back of your mind, it's very easy when somebody calls it, okay, let's do this, because you don't have, as solo entrepreneurs, we don't have somebody else checking us, helping us,
yes,
keeping us in check. Like this morning, for me getting up at this time and being on the West Coast, for me this is early.
Okay.
But and had I not been accountable to both of you, I would have passed it. I would have said, okay, I might have been willing, but I'm not taking the action because I don't have to. Nobody will know. Nobody will know.
Yeah.
And that's how we self-sabotage ourselves by. We may be willing, but willingness also comes with taking action.
Oh my goodness. Well, ladies, look, here's the action. We're going to ask everybody to join us over on Clubhouse, because we need to continue this conversation about the emotions of willingness. Oh my goodness. And the different emotions that our money causes. Coach, we want everybody to know where they can find you. So I'm going to put up the fact that you are at Profits In Daily.
Yep, you got my banner. There we go.
Profits In Daily. You can find her on Facebook over there at Profits In Daily. And if you need help with your money, this is the lady you want to talk to. Now, we do have a comment, one last comment from Mark. He says, our financial state is reflected by the story that we are willing to tell ourselves, which has been formulated by our parents. When we talked about our money story with Coach Karen, and what we witnessed as children, it plays itself out time and time again. This is so true. Mark, we'd like you to join us over at the Clubhouse.
Time and time again.
Because we're going to need a moderator, and we're going to go there right after the program. So with that, I want to thank Elizabeth Green for joining us today. And Coach, we love you. We just, seriously, we just really enjoy having you here on Biz Chicks. And guys, if you do not follow Coach Karen, you need to follow her. The wisdom is deep. Elizabeth is great at social media. So if you need help with social media, the Biz Chicks and she are willing to reach out to you. We want to remind you to go to the front of your own line, and we'll see you over in the Clubhouse. Have a great day.